Thank you for taking some time to join us on Unpacking the Capitol. I'm your state representative, El-Mahdi 𝗨𝗽𝗺, and I have the very unique pleasure of being able to have a conversation with someone who has an idea about so much going on to build up our transportation infrastructure here in Georgia, and that is the head of the State Road and Tollway Authority, the Georgia Regional Transit Authority, as well as the Atlanta Transit Link Authority, and that is none other than Chris Tomlinson. Thank you for taking the time to be able to have this candid conversation.
Well, thank you, and thank you for the opportunity, because we love talking about what we do and why we do it, and some of, especially your constituents, are some of our best customers, so happy to be able to participate.
Well, no, thank you. One of the things that when we thought about having this type of talk is to really give people an idea about not only just the role of state legislators, but also many of the agencies that have a hand in helping develop transit. And so for you being there, working side by side with so many through the years, and just expanding your idea as well as just your full knowledge in terms of what is capable, I think it's really impressive. Just that people need to really see that beyond the talk of what they hear sometimes on the news, different pundits, that people get a very clear sense about where their tax dollars are going in order to improve their quality of life. And so I'm going to mention, for some of you watching, I'm going to mention a couple of House bills that have been introduced and passed that have helped to not only fund the directives, but have been able to, at least from the aspect of a growing state, be able to encompass a lot of what we wish to see in terms of our transportation being able to support the lives that we have here. I know that as you can certainly ascertain or certainly speak to the fact that Georgia, for our 13 metro Atlanta counties, we're experiencing a really very fast change in population growth. How have the agencies that you had able to respond to that in a positive and at least forward-thinking way?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. I don't think people realize how explosive the growth is for Metro Atlanta. Over the next 20 to 30 years, we're looking at adding over 2 million people into Metro Atlanta. That's the equivalent of bringing the population of the Denver area and adding it into Atlanta all at once.
Wow, adding it.
Yeah. And Henry County, Cobb, and Gwinnett are three of the most rapidly growing. So some people, excuse me, some people tend to think about the level of congestion in the North Metro, but South Metro is seeing it not only in terms of population, but now you're also seeing it on the roadways in terms of all the commercial traffic. So there's a lot of things that we need to do. But your question is, how are we trying to respond to that, especially when we look at it from our agency perspective? As you mentioned, I have the pleasure and honor of really serving as executive director for 3 different state level entities, but they all have one common goal. That is, how do we address mobility, right? Helping people move in and around the metro area, either the counties that they live, the counties that they work, because sometimes those aren't the same thing. And the reason I'm involved with both tolling and transit and just overall transportation planning is, we know you're not going to solve the issues of congestion with any one thing.
Right, exactly.
And so it's exciting to really look at these projects, which may include express lanes, transit, and the combinations to just help people have a better quality of life.
That's an excellent point. I think particularly as you were speaking, it definitely brought to mind the introduction and the passage of House Bill 170, which provided over almost $1 billion in funding for the El-MIG, local maintenance improvement grants, to be able to help at least support the existing infrastructure there. But also what some may be able to if you take the time and remember, if you're looking for those of you, when you see kind of those middle lanes in the expressway kind of build up, and you're noticing that there are peach pass lanes, those peach pass lanes, they are connected. Are they not connected to some of our other states as well, or for instance, express
Yeah.
lanes?
Yeah, so we have 4 Peach Pass facilities in the state right now, but that's continuing to grow.
Okay.
And while we're working on the expansion of those, we want to also improve the convenience for our customers. So we have 2 initiatives. One is if you have a Peach Pass, then over time you can actually today you can use your Peach Pass on any toll facility in either Florida or North Carolina.
Mm.
And over time, we're now working on an agreement with what we call the Easy Pass states. But this is most of the states in the Northeast. So going as far up as Maine and as far west as Illinois. And by sometime next year, your Peach Pass will work in any of those states as well.
Wow, that's really it. Be able to show people that, you know, even though there is a friendly competition between states, we still have to be able to work together. And yeah.
Yeah, we definitely have a friendly competition, but our economic growth, we wanted to offer this as a benefit, and it's really twofold. It's not only for Georgia residents that may be traveling to these states, but a lot of these people that are moving to this area, moving to Henry County, are driving here.
Yeah.
And so if they have an account, we want them to be able to come in. At the same time, we're working on some additional perks, if you will, if you have a Peach Pass account, or maybe you had one of those others and you want to convert. And one of the things that we're very excited about, because it's going to launch in July, after July 4th, though, is if you have a Peach Pass account at the airport, their new ATL West parking deck, if you have a Peach Pass account, you'll be able to just drive into that lot. When you return from your trip, it'll automatically just charge to the credit card associated with the account.
Nice.
No tickets to remember. You're probably already running late. You just get in your car, you go, but you'll see that billing information because maybe you're submitting for expense reimbursement. But it's another perk to give a frictionless experience and save you just a little bit more time.
Now that's certainly it's worth it to be able to just try to save every little dollar, every little bit of your time, and it's necessary because, you know, time is a very limited commodity for many of us. You know, I was looking, and I know that for we've seen over the last 5 years or so, there's been a pretty rapid expansion of rideshare programs in the area. And, you know, so oftentimes I know that when we go to the Atlanta Transit Link Authority board meetings, and I know we're, you know, at least for those of us in Henry County, we're, you know, very glad to have, as, you know, as our very local, we have our board members, 𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪🐐, and as well as right next to him, 𝗪𝗪𝗪𝗪🐪 Franklin-Warner, who's a Clayton County Commissioner, you know, Mr. Mosby being a former state representative. Being able to look at those transit plans and be able to make sure that that we have it so that these individual agencies that are already providing a service, as well as those private entities, those private companies that are providing that service, is there, in what ways can the public trust that there is is there any type of plan that's already in place or that is working to be in place so that the service is offered by one or not stepping on the toes of the other? Are they working together?
That is a great question. And, you know, Henry County is an example of an area that's doing it right. Henry County is in the midst of doing a comprehensive transit plan right now. And transit, defined in the broadest sense, that's not necessarily just the transit services from public agencies. But you're right, you have Uber and Lyft and potentially other ride shares. These are choices that people are opting into. So in Henry County's plan, they're going to look at what they could do as a county, what's available either on the regional basis, such as the state's express system, but what is the private sector doing?
Right.
And we are actually working closely on new technology, new mobile applications that allow people to plan a trip across these modes, be they public or private, and also across operators, because some of these trips may go all through the metro area and cross some of these boundaries. And so that's what we're trying to do.
I think, you know, as we were talking, it really brings to mind, particularly traffic, as you know, when Henry County is is pretty thick.
Yes.
I have to explain to many people that Henry County is, I think, the second fastest growing population for a county in the state. And with that, and I know we've had a very robust infrastructure for our manufacturers in the area, as well as logistics. And I know for those who may not know, I know we've seen it on a transportation committee, that we have a freight and logistics commission that was even continued by a passage of a House bill even this year, that because not only do we have this heavy influx of people who are moving locally into these metro areas, but also we've seen that business has risen, the demands for business.
Yep.
And particularly even for some of you who might know, we've seen that the Port of Savannah is rapidly expanding. I think probably now it's the number 4th busiest, and I think
and fastest growing on the East Coast.
Yeah, fastest growing.
Yep.
And I think when you have that level of growth, population wise as well as business wise, what do you see, I guess, over the next 5 years? You see the growth, but do you see that Georgia's regulatory environment will be able to manage that level of growth, and to the point where you can be able to make sure you safeguard people's quality of life, but at the same time still make it available for these goods and services to be able to be carried out?
Yeah, from an agency perspective, when we think about that regulatory environment, what we can do to help address this rapid growth, 2 things comes to mind. One, you already mentioned, that is this Freight and Logistics Commission, and the ideas that come out of it, be it any of my agencies or Department of Transportation, we're trying to find ways to go from plans to action. Some of that is going to come in the form of planned commercial vehicle lanes, where we're going to look at, through the DOT, adding lanes to separate out the truck traffic, both to help alleviate some of the congestion, but also from a safety perspective. So you're going to find a way to support those businesses, move the freight that much better, but also lessen the impact on the private passenger vehicles.
Good.
The second thing is we're trying to understand from a regulatory perspective, what are some of the opportunities this may present? And then how can we make sure both our projects are ready and then our overall regulatory scheme is ready? And I'll give you a specific example of what I mean. Yes, we want to deal with that congestion in traffic, but we're equally interested in where are they going, what are the new job and activity centers, and do we have systems, services, access points to allow people to get from where they live and play their communities and access these new job opportunities that are coming.
Excellent.
And so that's one of the things I'm really excited. And some of it is not only about what's happening, especially in South Metro, with this freight and logistics industry, but some of it is the untapped potential of providing either better connectivity and better travel choices to the airport. The airport is the single largest job and activity center. There's a lot of talk about 𝗪𝗁𝗍𝗪. It's the fastest growing, but the airport's 24/7, 365.
Right.
We tout its rail connectivity with MARTA, but if you're south of the airport, that connectivity doesn't do you any good.
MARTA is nowhere around.
Right.
And
so we're very excited that we have the express lanes. We recently acquired a parcel off of Jonesboro Road for a future park and ride. And one of the things we are in early discussions, but we look forward to talking more with Henry County officials, is if we were to develop a park and ride there, what type of service should the state offer from it?
Right.
But what type of local transit services could also use it? We're not building this just for the state in our service. We want to see how maybe it's, again, those rideshare companies, maybe it's Henry County Transit, maybe it's something none of us have thought of, but there's somebody in school right now that is going to be able to best leverage it for the communities and the citizens down there.
Thank you. And that's really, a lot of that is really good to where we're going. When you think of it, actually, you know what? We're going to talk a little bit more about that. We're just going to go to one quick break. Stay tuned. Thank you for watching Unpacking the Capitol. I'm State Representative El-Mahdi 𝗍𝗨, and I'm joined by my friend and somebody that is likely your friend based upon so much of the improvements we've seen in transportation, Chris Tomlinson. I wanted to follow up with, we were talking about just the level of regulatory environment and how that is helping to sustain this wave of commercial and residential growth. You know, one of the things that I remember specifically from what our legislature passed when we looked at House Bill 930 was specifically to try to get local input. You know, and I know when we look at the laws that we pass in the state of Georgia, one of the concepts that we always hold dear is the value of home rule, of local communities understanding what's best for it, and for those local citizens to become more active, not only just in voting, but also being present when we're hosting hearings over major plans, major mobility plans, for you to just kind of take the extra step, because it's not enough just to, you're paying taxes, and we know that the taxes come out of your paychecks, or whenever you buy something from the supermarket, there's that little bitty tax comes to us at the state level and sometimes goes to the federal level, and we have to oftentimes look at what programs are existing and then how to sustain that match for federal dollars and state dollars. But it's because we're looking at solving those problems, and I know that locally within Henry County, I've gone and I've talked to so many of the municipalities, residents who have come from families that have long been in the area, as well as those who are just new citizens. The startling thing to find out is that, contrary to popular opinion or at least on Facebook, some of the local administrators of those smaller cities, I know I've talked to Locust Grove, and talking to those who are in McDonough, and they actually would like to see transit in the way of light rail, and those who are moving into the area, and as well as even some of those who are kind of in the suburbs, they are kind of against that. But what I like is that because we saw House Bill 930 with the focus on these 𝗪𝗡, the special purpose local option sales tax, which can be generated in order to help fund for that transportation. What I like is that at least with so many of the projects that we've seen, that there hasn't been this one size fits all.
That's right.
You're having the opportunity to really make sure that local governments and local citizens have a say about where they see as being the best option for the transportation in their area.
That is really the key. I think that's one of the lessons learned over time. What transit means in one part of the region may mean something very different somewhere else. But the key is getting that citizens' input. So I know Henry County's been working on their plan. I really hope citizens taking the opportunities to come out, provide their input, because at the state level, the approach that we're taking for our regional plans is to start with the individual plans happening at the local level. We don't want to take some state down approach. Your locally elected officials are much closer to the pulse and the needs of their citizens than we can be at the state level. But what we can do at the state level is bring additional expertise, additional assistance to the conversation. And then, yes, with House Bill 930, getting back to sort of what you might not know from a regulatory perspective, is there is this option now under the law to do this transit 𝗪𝗡, where it can be up to 1% or 1 penny and up to 30 years. I emphasize the up to because this is one of the first times, as opposed to a traditional transportation spots, which is normally a 5-year period. This is to allow communities to custom tailor. Maybe you want to do a fraction of a penny. Maybe the needs that the community has determined, when they look at the cost, maybe it only has to be for 2 years or 12 years or what have you. So maximum flexibility to do customized solutions.
Nice.
And that's, I think, is really important to people.
Very much so.
Yeah.
You know, I think, and we've covered so much,
Yeah.
and very grateful for that. Particularly, I know that so many within, you know, my area, which, you know, if those who know, House District 111, which I represent, really is very much centered along I-75 and those strong commercial corridors. But at the same time, we do have a very comfortable balance of just very small, quiet areas. And I think what people need to understand is that when you have a space where you are having smart growth, something that many times these meetings with the Council for Quality Growth, that we're able, when you have a focus on a really smart growth with respect to transportation plans, then now that cuts down on the traffic and the congestion into some of the more rural areas throughout the neighborhood. And that way there's a really healthy balance where business can operate, employees can be able to access those businesses, but at the same time, there can be a comfortable transportation infrastructure in place so that people don't have to necessarily go outside of those areas. They can put their money locally and invest locally.
Yeah.
Well,
one of the great things I like about your area is you have these great, bedroom communities, as they used to call them. You still have the greenery, you have that community camaraderie, but then for businesses that are looking at locating, you have this great connection to the airport and other things without having to fight some of the traffic that we have on the northern end of Metro. So there's still some opportunities, but now at least we've recognized that where that traffic is really increased, it's a lot of it's freight and logistics, and it's going to be really exciting to see over the next couple of sessions what strategies we can put in place to accommodate the businesses, but not damage their quality of life. So it's an exciting time for me to be in state government, but I think it's an exciting time for South Metro, especially in the Henry County area.
Thank you. No, I totally agree with you. The last question, and this is something I think is to the heart of at least what I'm trying to approach with this series. So many of local residents, when I've talked to them, are really fed up with politics. Okay, they see it, they watch the big cable news TV stations, and many times the perspectives that are offered on these stations, I think people are seeking information, but sometimes many times what they're getting is that people tend to lean towards those new outlets, the news outlets that can validate their perceptions.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that I learned, particularly coming in, is that where we may not know everything, and that it's very good to be able to have questions and to not make any broad assumptions, but to look further and to realize what truths are available, and maybe the truths through which we can arrive at some level of cohesion. And I guess from your perspective, having overseeing these agencies, their cooperation, as well as looking at the major mobility transportation plans, what if you were talking to just the average person who's just saying, hey, I don't deal with politics, I pay taxes, I vote for somebody to do right by me, but you know what? It's a little too crazy for me. What advice do you have for them if politics pisses them off or really just gets them to where they just hate it? What advice do you have for them in order to really see that there's a future provided with their participation?
My advice is be part of the solution, and there's opportunities to do exactly that. The reality is Metro Atlanta is one of the largest and most well-thriving metro areas in the country. We're competing well against everybody. We have some pretty good plans in place. You're going to see a lot of construction that's going to cause some problems, but there's an opportunity here to get involved. You can get involved in terms of there's going to be jobs coming with this construction work. We know today there's not enough construction workers, there's not enough engineers. We need new and fresh ideas, and so there's those opportunities. But there's just the chance to participate and shape it. This stuff is not set in stone, and the transportation problems, the congestion, it knows no party.
Right.
It doesn't care if it's blue or red. You're stuck right next to the person next to you. But really, because of House Bill 170 and the monies that is generated over the next 10-year period, there are going to be opportunities. I was talking to some people in the construction industry. They can't find enough people now. Department of Transportation, there aren't enough engineers coming out of the schools. You're about to see some interesting things coming out of some trade associations where they're looking to get welders, et cetera. There's opportunities that require college that don't. Now's the time to, if you have any interest in any of these areas, get involved, because Georgia's going to have opportunities for years to come.
And really, it looks like that. I mean, I love the fact that we're now, even though we have these options that are now broad, we realize that there's real strength in being able to grow that talent locally. And so if we have to look at other industries, and what I've seen too is that many times the salaries are really, really competitive and very strong, along with the benefits. So it's good to see that while we can dream big, hopefully that we can help supply that talent for these areas so they can be able to sustain, not only our quality of life, but also to make it so that we have a very thriving local business economy.
Yeah, I think the opportunities are boundless. One thing that I think as government we need to do a better job is letting people know about these opportunities. There's some information I want to get to you to get out about even scholarship opportunities.
Oh, that's great.
Coming up because we've recognized the problem and we know we have to build that pipeline, and now's the time to do it.
Thank you. All right, that's Unpacking the Capitol. Thank you so much, Chris, for taking the time to be here. And I guess if closing out, is there any way people can find out more about what goes on with these agencies in a way that can help get them to participate more, as well as even possibly better their life?
Yeah. Well, first off, I would definitely check out our website. So you can find us online, any number of places, but peachpass.com, atltransit.ga.gov will really get you a lot of information about what we're doing in the transit space or what we're doing with the express lanes. Also check out the Georgia Department of Transportation's website, and you'll hear about some of these specific projects. Other than that, we try to get around to different areas, schools. We are continuing to work on, we're trying to live what we preach. So you're going to see us continue to try to develop our internship programs. And so just keep a lookout on our websites, and we look forward to engaging. Just about everybody that works here obviously lives in the area, and so they're impacted by these projects that we do, and they take their jobs very seriously.
Awesome. All right, well, there you have it, everyone. Stay tuned for our next very interesting conversation on Unpacking the Capitol. Thanks for watching.